Mm-hmm.
All right. All right. So I think what I don't know where I got cut off, but more or less what I was trying to say is get what you like. You know, you can make these as elaborate or simple as you want. Um, Making it for yourself, you and your significant other, making it for a small crowd. Um, it's important that you know that you probably ahead of time you know what you're gonna get. So a lot of stores you go to will let you sample, and that's always good. I just recently, for the first time, hit Wegmans. They got a really cool selection of meats, salamis, and cheeses. They have a cheese cave there. They have a lot of notes. So, and there's a lot of stores that have really good cheese selections. And the best thing is one, try, two, you know, a lot of stores will have staff that can kind of tell you about different cheese if you haven't already had that specific one. And then the same thing goes for your salamis. Salamis are, are cured meats and sausages that that a lot of times, you think of good old salami that's, salami sandwich or pepperoni, but and then there's more complex ones, and you have real simple that are just simply dry cured, and then also you have some that are extra aged that really have a good funk to it. So, one, what you're comfortable with. Taste wise, what your guests probably are comfortable with. And then obviously, in my environment at the club, I try to work a balance of things that are mild that appeal to a bigger crowd, and then sticking in a little something funky in there for those that like something a little funky, a little adventurous, but not overpowering everything. So what I want to do is, again, I'm going to just show you a few things, talk to you a few things. I'm not really cooking much. And I definitely just wanted to be able to give an opportunity to see a few things. But so what I want to do is, and you might not be able to see all of this. So I have a real simple burner, a little pan. If you have a little saucepan. So one of the things that, and I gave, the shopping list, and that's why the shopping list that I put out was so vague, because so many people have so many different tastes, and that's where, your comfort level. So this right here is just really simple Chardonnay wine. And I'm going to put that in here. And it was about almost a whole cup. And then I have some golden raisins. So obviously a lot of people want to talk about cheese and meats, they're having it with wine or beer, cider. So it kind of makes sense. You have golden raisins, which are dried grapes, obviously. And then you have the Chardonnay wine, or you could do a Chablis or any kind of white wine. And for that matter, you could use a Pinot Noir, you could use cider. You get red grapes, you could kind of do the same thing. A lot of times I like to say, there are a lot of rules per se, but also there's no rules. You gotta eat what you like. Obviously there's safety rules of eating things that you're, safe foods, obviously, but and there are some obvious techniques of you're going to make a creme brulee or something like that. There's those types of rules, but eat what you like. So more or less what you do with that is you're just more or less pumping these raisins in that wine. And then so you have raisins, you have wine, and it's gonna complement pretty much any of these meats or cheeses that I have. So more or less I'm just gonna let this come to a simmer, turn it off, let it kind of sit and pump, and then I'll drain them in just a little colander. And then normally if you're doing this ahead of time, and I just want to at least show you what I did, is then you let them cool down. Let them cool down room temperature, put them in the refrigerator. They last forever. So obviously they're not only are they good for this, but they're excellent on salads. Just a little kick up from that. So that just came to a simmer. And again, I'm just going to let that sit. That doesn't have to be perfect because for the most part, it's just going to be me and a few other folks eating that. The other thing that I wanted to since I had it, and I really wanted just this dramatic thing right here in front of everybody, is this is a North Carolina country ham. It's a small batch cured heritage ham made from heritage pigs grown here in North Carolina. So what I have here, I trimmed this down already. And a lot of times when you trim these down like this, and then once if you're not going to use it all, then you want to kind of put a layer of fat back on that exposed meat to kind of keep it from oxidizing. So that's what some places will melt a little fat and they kind of smear it. So we picked up this ham, small batch ham, before the shutdown, and obviously it's already an aged year and a half, and so it just kind of was continuing to age and improve. And we went ahead and broke it out for our dinner the other night, and I wanted to kind of just show you this cool whole ham. And right there. So obviously, probably on TV or you've been to restaurants yourselves that will have a traditional Serrano ham. Spanish restaurants, tapas restaurants. There's a tapas restaurant, Charcuterie, that's in Asheville. My wife and I went there last summer, and they have a whole section of like 3 different hams with different ages, and they come from different pigs. It's just awesome. So basically with this right here, and I know there's not going to be a lot of you that go out and get a whole ham and try to do this, but because I had it, I wanted to do it. And it's a little bit different because you're slicing it by hand traditionally. You get a little bit thicker cut than, say, folks that when you go to the butcher deli and you get some prosciutto ham and then you get it shaved, super thin. And it's all about texture. I got a little bit of that fat, not too much fat, but a little bit of that fat. And then as you kind of go down, the marbleization changes on it. And so I just wanted, just again, because I had it, I wanted to kind of show this off. My plan is to, more or less after this demo, since these days we don't have large events anymore to do this as a carving station. We'll just break it down into a couple sections, cryovac it, and then put it on some menu items to with some country ham or ham wrapped fish or something like that. So I haven't planned that out, but definitely cool. And then you slice something like this, and I'll kind of show you. I've already started a board that has a couple items, and then something like this. You don't want to handle it too much because I am doing with my hand right now, but they do have some special tongs that you can buy so that you can kind of pick this stuff up while you kind of hold it with the tongs while you slice. And but my suggestion on something like this is that if you do get something like this or some prosciutto ham, you can get your deli to slice them for you. You can find it already pre-sliced, some good quality products that are out there. And probably one of the important things on some of these things is that keep it cold until you're ready to handle it, so that, because you just like if you're touching chocolate, you start handling it, starts melting, and then your hands get messy, and then you start kind of losing some of that fat off of there. But I wanted to at least show this because it is a beauty thing. It is a beauty. It's cool, and I love this thing. We had some of this a couple of years ago for a big event. We used it for a couple of beer and wine dinners, and I just love it. It's a shame that I have to break it down here soon. So going from there, since I'm kind of talking about the meat, so that is your country ham, your prosciutto, that you could use as a meat option. When you're doing these, if you're planning this, like I said, usually it's good to kind of have at least three to five different cheeses, and maybe depending on how big your crowd, anywhere from you know, 1 to 3 meats, maybe even 5 different meats. Again, you know how big of a crowd, how much you're going to do, how much variety you want to have. So again, it's again the rules. It's up to you, but it's, you know, just kind of good variety, gives different folks something good, different to eat. So I wanted to show a few products that I have on this board. One of the things that I also got recently was a country pate. So it's a coarse ground pork. It's got pork liver, and then spices, black peppercorn. So it's got a nice little, you know, livery taste to it. Again, you get these fatty items that are and rich, that are really good when you cut it with some wine. You know, certain beers, ciders. You know, again, you have your beer drinkers, your wine drinkers. Cocktail, if we're talking about cocktails going with it, I have to kind of rethink. You know, I am more of a bourbon drinker, but I would have to rethink if I was that was my sole beverage to go with something like this. So then a couple other things that I have is I have a hot sopressata, which was the I believe this one that I had here in the middle, and then another salami Vesuvio, which is a spicy salami with provolone cheese. I also have here Spanish chorizo. So Spanish chorizos are dried, cured, and they're not always really small like this, but sometimes they are larger. But again, it's a dry cured sausage, unlike like a Mexican chorizo that a lot of us think about. That is that comes to you raw. You have to pull it out of the casing. You have to cook, it comes to you raw, and you have to cook it before you serve it with eggs or rice or any other that good stuff. And then I have right here for the wine dinner, I had one left that is a chicken liver pate, chicken liver mousse that came out really, really good. And so some of these are the items that we just, again, recently just served to a wine course. It was a variety of French wines, white and red, very light, crisp to darker Pinot Noir. I don't think there was any cabs that I remember. But again, all those different wines and these different cheeses and these meats just kind of, you know, just kind of gives you a different experience. So a few things that I wanted to point out, you know, if you do go out and you get some of this product. I was trying not to make this a commercial for a lot of these local products, but a lot of this stuff is local North Carolina ham or not North Carolina meats and cheeses. And, you know, to me, it's going out to find what's good. I know everybody here is not here in North Carolina. You know, I would strongly suggest go to your local butcher or gourmet store and find that elevated product. Support those local vendors that, you know, really, really make some really cool stuff. They hold on to some old traditions, and sometimes they elevate some new styles. But I wanted to kind of show on this one salami right here, just, you know, again, this is kind of looking, you know, some of this is just getting yourself prepared. And so some of this stuff you can, you know, I have these whole sticks. We have a commercial slicer in the kitchen. Not everybody has that, obviously, and not everyone has super sharp, thin carving knives. But what I wanted to show is that, you know, a lot of them will come in sealed in plastic. Some of them say them, some of them don't, but you always want to make sure that you check to see if there's a inedible casing. So I want to say 2 out of the 3 salamis actually said on there, remove the casing. So on this, you know, you get a small knife, and you just kind of, you don't want to cut too deep, because when you start slicing it, you kind of lose your appeal. But I just kind of sliced just a little bit, just to cut through that casing. And then you can use your knife, a little paring knife or something, and then you peel that paper off. And if you're only going to do a little bit, you don't want to necessarily always unwrap the whole thing. You can kind of take this around and then make sure you peel that off. Because if you don't, then you start eating it, and you start getting this little chewy something that you know, kind of ruins that experience. And like I said, a couple of these salamis kind of warned you, but sometimes we just slice and don't even think about. And then again, a lot of these things, if you're finding them into your local store, they can slice them for you. You know, but one of the important things is try to get them sliced as close to the time of your event, you know, of your party that you're going to have. You know, if you can get a day of, it's probably the best. Day before, it's probably safe, so you're not running around, you know, the day of your party, especially if you're going to have several guests within your bubble, and have this stuff kind of done. But if you know, obviously, you know, you have this slice and it's in your refrigerator. I mean, everybody's has salami. They have things sealed, packed. Everything's fine. But if you can slice it closer to time, that's even better. You know, and even some of the stores have little packs that might have three different types of salamis already pre-sliced. I mean, a lot of those are really good. But what you want to try to do is, you know, if you're going to buy the big pieces, I do have this nice offset knife. If I had a slightly serrated knife, that might help a little bit. And I don't know how well you can see, but nice thin slices. And I personally, and I think a lot of people will agree, is that the thinner the better. There is a point where you can shave it and make it a little bit too thin. You know, you don't want it so thin that it's kind of falling apart, but you know, nice thin slices. And what that does is that when you're eating that salami, most of it's melting on your tongue, melting in your mouth, and then very little chewing. So you can kind of enjoy that. That fat's melting, the spices are sitting on your tongue. You know, you have a little bit of a drink before, after you sip, and just makes it, for me, much more enjoyable. If you get these slices that are way too thick, then to me, you're just spending too much time chewing. And you're just like, you chew, and you just don't really enjoy it as much. So when we do go to the store, and even when I have my guys, or myself or my guys, you know, doing charcuterie platters, you know, I tell them thin, you know, and they'll come back and they'll say thinner until you get to that right point when you put it in your mouth, it just melts. I think I showed this country pate. One of the things with the pate, which I have right here, I slice this kind of thick. Again, keeping it cold. Something like this, when you're slicing it, you know, the salamis, you pull out your slice. If you're slicing them, you know, cold, that's fine. You know, the fats are congealed. But this being really cold is probably more important, because it'll easily fall apart when you start slicing it. And then the other thing that helps is if you have, you know, you get some hot running water and run it over your blade of your knife, and then slice through it. It'll kind of cut through there and maintain that texture. If you try to slice this too thin, it'll start falling apart. But that can be where you do it like this. You have it on your board, and then guests are going to come. They're going to start breaking it apart, which is fine. So you have your nice presentation, and then the guests can break it apart themselves. So again, really simple. Sometimes we chefs and other folks will sometimes overthink, you know, I mean, there's some really neat presentations. You can make roses, you know, if you get your salamis and they're kind of nice and thin and bigger, not salamis, but prosciutto, you know, and you can kind of do a little twist and thing like that. And you can make these like little rose petal things. But, you know, one, that takes practice, you know, two, you know, you have to have a lot of it. And sometimes, you know, the time that you spend on that, you start handling the food too much. And just to kind of simplify things, thin, pillowy, and that's kind of a good thing. And then Something like this, you can do, again, pickles. I mean, I have some real simple pickled peppers, banana peppers. You can have caper berries, things that have, that are pickled. They have acidic, they have sugar in them. So a lot of these counterbalancing to these events, to these meats. A couple of olives. And I think that's all that I have out here to kind of go with that. And then also I have some crackers. And then the crackers, obviously the bread, also just as much go well with the cheese. But for this sake, again, local crackers out of Hillsboro, and I've seen them at, I could buy them directly from my vendor, but I've seen them at Whole Foods a while ago. You can leave them big, put them in a basket, kind of really give you a, if you want a little bit of dramaticness, you can kind of make a little, basket with some of your breads and whatnot. I have a couple of semi-hard rolls. You could take the bread, you could, right before guests come, you throw them in the oven, or just as they're coming, throw it in the oven, get it kind of crispy, then slice it, then you have kind of, crusty and soft bread, which is awesome with these meats, also with the cheese, especially when I start pointing out a few, they'll kind of start melting onto the bread. And then just as easily, like I'm sure many have done, you can slice this into thin and make, drizzle a little bit of olive oil, a little bit of salt, a little bit of fresh herb, and bake them off in the oven, make some crostinis. All right, put that there. All right, so next, we're going to talk about some cheese. And what I'm going to do is these raisins. I don't know where I'm at right there.
You are on table view.
Cool. Yeah, so those raisins, they were just normal golden raisins with a little bit of wine, and just kind of let them till that juice, and then it's going to drain that. Kind of a big bowl for such a little bit of raisins, but so again, I would let those cool down a little bit, and those, again, as you're eating, you play. You eat a little meat and cheese together. You meat by itself, cheese by itself. A couple of these different little items, and what you end up doing is just find different combinations that are really interesting, or just that perfect bite that you like, and that you just keep going over and over with. And the other thing you can put on here is like a little bit of mustard. I have some Dijon mustard, but you know what mustard looks like. Have some Dijon mustard. You get like a whole grain mustard. I would veer for something like this. I'd veer away from yellow French's type mustard. That's delicious mustard on a hot dog. But for something like this, I would, have something that has a little, the Dijon has white wine in it. You have some coarse grain mustards that can be kind of hot, spicy, and, again, kind of cut through some of the richness of these meats. So what I want to go to next is talk a little bit more about some cheese. So most of the cheese, again, just like most of this charcuterie, the meat, salamis were local. Most of these cheeses as well are local, and there's so many different ones, different varieties, awesome companies in North Carolina. Too many to really mention, but I have a few favorites that I kind of veer towards that I'll keep in house on a regular basis, and then some of the other ones I'll just when we are busier, when we're doing the bigger cheese and fruit and meat trays and all that different combination, I'll bring in a little bit more variety, use it, and just find different things. Just to introduce, to you, our members and guests, just something different that you might not get at some of the other places, and start that conversation of, oh, I like that cheese. Where did you get it? Where can I get it? And I can give you a good variety of places that you can go. Other than shoot for your some of your local stores that carry a variety of local product. So in my suggestions, I suggested a soft cheese. So what I have here, and so I might build this a little bit backwards. I'm gonna kind of let it go. So hopefully it still looks nice, because normally I would start with, for me personally, some of the firm cheeses onto my board, and then I would have the empty spots. I would have the soft cheeses, and also in those places that are a little bit more easily accessible, especially if it's a cheese that needs like a little spread, little knife to spread with. And then you have other cheeses that are just fine with a little toothpick or a little pair of tongs. So again, and when I'm trying to build a board, I'll have, if I'm trying to build, from a high angle down to a low angle, kind of going out, I'll have some of the firmer cheeses in the back, and then work my way to some of the softer cheeses in the corners or in the front for easier access and single layer. So for right now, so this right here is Goat Lady Dairy, local cheese. This is their Smoky Mountain Round. So it's a Chev, fresh goat milk cheese that's lightly smoked. So delicious. It's awesome on crostinis. I mean, it's just good, but it's awesome on crackers, crostinis, and salads and whatnot like that. So so I had one that I'd already opened up earlier. So this right here, also these get a little bit messy. So usually cold is good, and sometimes you can just take it. Again, some folks want things a little bit more, say, uniform, and some like a little free form. I go both ways. One thing you can do is, since the cheese is soft and pliable, you can kind of knead it a little bit in your hands, and then shape it in a little ball. So that's kind of one way, and then you could even, if you wanted to, you could even roll that around in some chopped herbs. You could roll around a little paprika, a little chopped parsley, something that's still maybe a little bit neutral. Fresh dill if you're trying to go in that direction. So I'm going to put that there for right now. And I got extra layer of gloves on, because those are kind of sticky. All right. So the other cheese, so then I also talked about a firm cheese. So kind of skipped the medium firm cheese and went straight to, well, these are kind of medium firm. These are in the middle of a soft and a firm cheese. And then this is an aged cheddar. So let me go to this one right here. So I have several cheeses from Prodigal Farm. It's a goat farm that's north of Durham. I believe they sell their cheese at, I think, the Chapel Hill Farmers Market over there in the mall, or outside the mall, and I think also at the Durham. And so so again, one of those things also about cheese, and I have tape that's sticky, is you will buy cheese that are cryovac, and that's fine. Keep them in the cryovac, they're good to go. Sometimes some places might have cheese, especially some higher end cheese places. They'll cut pieces, they wrap them in butcher paper. Ideally, keep them wrapped up in that butcher paper. It allows the cheese to breathe. So if you get a cheese like this, and you wrap it up in saran wrap and you stick it in your refrigerator for, you use it right away for your party, and then you stick it in there, it'll just kind of die. It'll kind of over sweat itself, get overripe, a couple different things like that. So this is one of their cheese. It's an anniversary cheese, millefeuille. It means million layers. It was in honor of their million batch of cheese, not million, 1,000. Ooh, I went a little heavy there. So it's kind of have the texture of kind of like a camembert or a brie, but it's aged a little bit more, so it has a little firmer rind to it. They've wrapped this in fig leaf that also was soaked in brandy. So, but as you can see, this is, not firm like a cheddar. I just happen not to bring a cheddar out. You all know what cheddar looks like, tastes like, the texture. If I get cheddar, I like a nice sharp cheddar, but also like a smoked cheddar. But something like this, again, since this is a fairly soft cheese, and if you want to maintain some of that dramaticness of it, then, I would just cut it into like a wedge. And you can kind of see just that really neat texture to it. All right. Make sure I have all my cheeses in line. I'm gonna save this one right here for last. This right here, I know one of the cheese, so I'm skipping to a hard cheese. And excuse me while I look at my notes, because I'm kind of making sure, I'm trying to make sure I didn't miss something. But, Parmesan Reggiano, like a true Parmesan Reggiano is really, really good. I mean, obviously we have it in our Caesar salads and in pasta, but, if you get a nice aged parm, you kind of flake it off, that saltiness, with some warm bread, it's just delicious. The one that I also said was the Memolet. I kind of put that in there just for you. I knew someone was going to look it up online that didn't know what it was. And I'll let you just do that because it's probably not the most visual appealing cheese that you might want to think of, but the extra aged ones of the Memolet actually look a lot like this aged Gouda. They'll have this, like they look at this ball and they have this kind of gray outside and then this orange interior, and then they just have that kind of crystallization. Really delicious cheese. But this is also, this is a 26-month aged Gouda. So I put this the other day and everybody thought it was, they thought it was just an extra aged cheddar. And you can age cheddar to where it'll start getting this crystallization, which is very, very good. But so this is as you can maybe, it's a pretty firm cheese, pretty hard cheese. And so what I'm gonna do is kind of cut off a piece here, and you can see it kind of flakes. And just like when you get a really nice Parmesan cheese. But what I wanted to show, besides just that, is again, one of those things where you do have some cheese that have a rind on it, or even the wax. So this one, when I did it originally, I kind of peeled away some of the plastic, and then you just want to make sure that you get rid of that wax, because sometimes there's that little cheese. Of course, I'm probably not doing the best. Of course, I cut a small piece, but if you cut off a bigger wedge, and also when you go to, usually you go to a store and they have something like this, it's going to already be cut into an 8-ounce or 1-pound wedge, and then you can just kind of see that again, just before you put them on a tray, check them out and make sure there's, sometimes you can leave like the wax coating for appearance, as long as there's not the cheesecloth between that wax and the cheese. So sometimes you get those baby bells, which are really nice cheese, very mild, and they either have a red wax or yellow wax. So again, the one thing with cheese, they're all either white or yellow. There's not a lot of color. So sometimes getting a little color can be that black or red wax. that might come on some of the cheese. I did not bring it out tonight. And I do put on my cheese board very often is I buy a Derby sage. It's a cheddar style cheese, has sage in it, so it's green. So a lot of times when we're doing these cheese boards, you have a lot of white and orange, light orange. And it's really nice to have this little green pop, and it's really good cheese as well. And again, so, everything doesn't always have to have all the colors of the rainbow, but sometimes a little bit of pop of color, really does help. I know we all eat with our eyes, but sometimes we can overdo it with too much, putting a little bit too much color, just for the sake of color is not, not the best thing in my opinion. All right, let me see. Where can I put this? About right there. So I have that there. It's also Prodigal Farm. This is their Spring Fever. This is probably one of my favorite cheese from them, and award-winning cheese. And I think, and again, like I said earlier, I think, I'm talking about some of these specific products more than I am the board, but you slice, you dice, you put them on there, everything tastes good. And that's where it's important to source what you like and what tastes good. So this is a really neat cheese. Again, it's a semi-soft, has a really neat creamy texture to it. And it's just really, it's got this real thin rind. It's just kind of real creamy, tangy, and just a really cool, delicious cheese. And I'm going to bring this down. But this one right here, this one, it's been sitting out a little bit while I was doing the demo and getting ready. The only thing about this, sometimes you have to be careful, is on your trays, is that, and again, this is when you know a cheese that you've had before, or you ask your cheesemonger or deli person, as some of these cheeses get from refrigerator cold to cool, they soften up more and they start to run. And which is a good thing because it's runny on your bread and toast like that, but it's not good if it runs off of your cutting board.
I do have a question about
Yes.
the cheesemonger.
Okay.
Could you define and recommend locations?
I don't know if I have the best knowledge of local cheesemongers. You put me on the spot. Because a lot of the cheese that I get from here, I have my local vendors. So I kind of, I all these different cheese I call, like Prodigal Farm, they deliver directly to me. And I know they're in that farmer's market. And some of my other cheeses, I know whether they're local or if they're an international favorite, like the Gouda or Parmesan. So I just make those phone calls and they come to me. As far as local cheese places, they have good selections at places, and again, there's other places out there. Fresh Market's pretty good, but I think my personal opinion is that Whole Foods kind of has a little bit more intensive staff maybe on those different items. I did not go in questioning very much because I was on the way to the airport to pick somebody up, and I've been wanting to go to Wegmans and see where it was in town, and then just check it out. So, excuse me, I got an itch. So more or less all I did was go in there, have a hamburger, and I just walked the store for about an hour. But just going through that whole store, the seafood, the meats, the deli, but I would say on a grander scale, they have a really neat cheese program and a cheese cave. And a cheese cave, I'm sure they don't have an actual cave that you go down, and that's, you know, back in the day, cheese caves were, they called them that because they were caves that, you know, deeper in the ground, they have a certain temperature and moisture, you know, humidity in the area, in the air, that would maintain the integrity of different cheeses to those different areas. So just like we have, you know, everybody doesn't have a wine cellar, but you can get, you know, a wine cooler that can strictly keep wine or beer at a certain temperature. You can also get cheese caves, and I think you can even get smaller versions for your house if you're really into that. But I know that they kept talking about their cheese cave or cheese ripened or cave ripened cheese, and that's where they have a certain temperature and humidity so that these cheeses are in there. They're not wrapped up in, like I said, cryovac plastic, and so that they can breathe and age the way that they're kind of meant to. As far as other meat and cheese places, I haven't sought out a whole lot. I'm kind of brain blocking, and I know there's some butcher shops and places around town, and of course some places have shut down. So to be honest with you, even at this point, 6 months into a lot of places not doing business like they used to, I don't know, and I'm sorry I don't know. But I will, you know, maybe do a little research, and a lot of times just a little Google search will help you, you know, because, you know, again, not everybody's here locally. Some of you might be out and about somewhere else, and it's just a matter of finding that. There was a really neat place I ran into in DC. It was like Cowgirl Creamery, which I think the Cowgirl Creamery is in California, but they had an outpost in DC. And again, this was a long time ago, but they carried other, you know, all different other kinds of cheeses there. And then obviously also, you know, wine and beer and do that whole thing. But now that someone's asked, I'll look into it a little bit more and see if I can find something, and then maybe post it online on my Instagram, even on, you know, the club or the GAAs. They can share something good like that. I think this is the last cheese that I had out. I try to keep things close, but then spread them out. So the last category that I had was something stinky. And so this, again, just because we had this event recently, and just to make it, you know, more or less make it worth someone to come bring me, you know, cheese, I got a little variety of cheese. So again, Prodigal Farm, this is their blue Chevrolet. Cat's really cool on the little puns and whatnot on the names of some of their cheese, but it's a blue cheese. Chev meaning goat milk cheese, and late meaning milk. So it's a blue goat cheese, blue goat cheese. So she also has a Sexpahal Blues cheese that is really good. So yeah, this pretty has it's not the stinkiest, but it definitely has a little more funk than your regular blue cheese, maybe than your Maytag. Maytag's a good, you know, American blue cheese. And again, if you want to clean things off like this, you know, have yourself a damp towel, kind of. And then again, like I was saying, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different cheese. All these have different softness, creaminess, crunchiness. Some are a little bit stronger than others. And then a blue cheese. So this right here, you just really just need a little bit. I'm probably cutting, you know, a nice little slab, something like that. Sometimes blue cheeses can be real crumbly. And so in that case, you have more not stinky cheese, then so that someone walks into the room and then they have just overwhelms the whole smell of your whole dining room. Yes. Yep, I sure will. All right, I'll put that there. And then again, just like kind of like the meat, something like this. I have, again, you have these different cheese. You can put them on warm bread, crackers. You can, if you want to look up a recipe and candy your own walnuts or pecans, and you got the time, then you go for it. But there's, again, there's good products out there. This is a honey glazed peanuts. So that kind of gives you some sweet and some crunch. I have Chardonnay raisins. And then right here, you can put some of these, berries. And if you don't have a lot of room, I mean, sometimes you have lots of room, and you can put some of this stuff on the board. The one thing that I personally tried to be careful with is try not to put too much wet items, because sometimes those wet things run into the cheese and can kind of make the texture kind of weird if it sits. So that's why I usually on my cheese board, especially when we're doing for big crowds, I try to stick to the dry fruits. So your strawberries, blackberries, blueberries, grapes are all delicious. I try not, if I'm going to do something that's on the wet side, say probably these Chardonnay, right here, you're doing it right before, that's fine. I might do something as far as I might keep that in a small bowl next to it so people can help themselves. You can also guava paste, guava jelly, jams. I mean, the sky's the limit. It's just, again, eating what you like, eating what's in season. And I think I showed you all my goodie tricks for the moment.
We have a question regarding the rind on brie.
Yes.
Is that something you should or should not eat?
You should eat it. It is delicious. I don't eat enough brie, but one of my early memories of brie is not a family thing, but one of the first hotel I apprenticed at, I was a young apprentice, and I had an Italian chef. There's executive chef, and then there's chefs of the different restaurants. So the one restaurant, Italian chef, and almost every day he would get a little small piece of a baguette, split it, slice up brie, put it in there, throw the whole thing in the oven, and just let that baguette get crispy, that brie kind of warm up in there, and that's something that's just delicious. And of course, you can go some of that bacon and puff pastry, and but again, what's easier would be bacon brie in a baguette than wrapping it in a puff pastry and making that hot mess.
What is in the bowl next to the raisin? Right
This.
beside the board. No, the short bowl.
This right here?
No, right beside the raisin.
This right here?
Yes.
Yes, that is that's chicken liver mousse, pate. Again, different restaurants, different places have a certain amount of equipment that they can, there's some places out there that make their own salamis and pates. In these days, there's a lot of things that are different. But we were doing this wine dinner last week, and these are all awesome products. But I just kind of I've been wanting to had made a chicken liver mousse in a very, 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 very long time. My wife and I last summer, between Charleston and Asheville, probably had chicken liver mousse in about 4 different restaurants. 3 out of 4 were out of this world, and so I wanted to make some for this wine dinner that we did last week. But it's very, very simple. It was chicken livers that were sautéed, and and then blend it up with shallots, garlic, brandy, and a lot of cream. So yeah, it's definitely rich, but it was good.
So two additional questions. One person would like to know if you ever serve on a chill board.
I personally, I guess I don't, but I would probably, that's a good idea. Also, what we do is we will build these boards, especially when we're doing the larger events, whether it's 10, 25, 2,500, we build the trays and we stick them in there, we wrap them, stick them in the refrigerator, so that when you're coming to a party, we pull them out right before you come and everything is chilled. And sometimes those trays and platters, just by sitting in the refrigerator are cold. But it's definitely a good idea if you have a marble, something that holds the cold. If you have marble or something else, there's some things that are insulated where they'll hold a chill, and that's good because that just means you can put it out. It'll maintain that cold temperature until you start cutting into it and let it warm on your own plate or things like that. So if you have it, it's definitely a good idea. And you could, if you're going to do something last minute, you got the room, you could put your board in the refrigerator or the freezer, if you have room, just to pre-chill it. Sometimes you can pre-chill it, bring it out, put all your cold products on it, and you're about to send it. It all depends on how much room you have and how big, refrigeration, boards, all that good stuff.
So I have one more question, but before we get to that, I would like to thank everyone for attending tonight. On behalf of the GAA, we appreciate our members who make these events possible. Please stay tuned for the remainder of the week for Hills at Home. Tomorrow night, we will be having a sports trivia night with Rick Steinbacher from the athletics department as our MC. On Friday evening, we will be hosting a virtual beer tasting with Chris Creech from the Glass Jug. You check on our website, he gives directions for which beers to purchase, and then he'll take you through a guided testing. Again, we do appreciate you coming tonight. I would like for people to switch to gallery view and hold up your boards if you've made them at home. And we're going to try to get a shot of these boards, these beautiful boards from home. Do post on social media, hashtag UNCGAA, and it's at hashtag UNC alumni, at UNCGAA. On Instagram, you can also follow Chef Brian on Instagram. And the last question I have for him that many of you have been asking is if he would rerun the names of some of these local vendors that he likes, the crackers, the nuts, the cheese, the meats, and so on.
Certainly. And again, some of these are, you might just have to do a little research. Again, Google where to find locally. I've seen things in Whole Foods and Fresh Market, Wegmans, and then there's some smaller shops. But I in the last couple of months, I haven't had a chance to really see what's out there. And I live in Fuquay, so Fuquay, if I pronounce it right. Hopefully I did. I get corrected often, but again, I don't come out to Chapel Hill other than to work, and I don't know much about, as far as in Durham. So I know there's a lot of places that I see on social media. I just don't get to visit them as much. And even Lowe's food. So a lot of places just have different variety of things. But so this one right here, I don't know if I'm being showed. So I've seen these often. San Giuseppe is a brand. The gentleman that, the company, the gentleman that makes this, they have a deli in Greensboro. It's called Giacomo's. They had a couple of them. I think they have one or two. But then he has a sausage making facility outside of Greensboro that they make all these dry cured sausages. And then they also make, so San Giuseppe, and I've seen them even at the farmers market. At the Raleigh farmers market, I've seen some of their products like in the freezer section, a couple of the meat places. But then also you have, this is a Cheshire pork. And so Cheshire pork is what it is, but also it's the name brand. And it's all locally raised hogs. And the thing that's kind of cool is that this guy's the master sausage maker. Some of these other guys bring their product, their pork that they raise or through their local farmers, and maybe with a tweak or so of the recipe, he's the one that's making a lot of these sausages. So you have Cheshire pork, and then also you have Lady Edison, which is a Chapel Hill local. I haven't been there yet, but they have the Pig restaurant, I think, is a barbecue place, and they just opened up a deli, a bagel place or something like that, somewhere in Chapel Hill. But the Lady Edison hogs, they're heritage breed hogs, but the same sausage maker is making all the different products. This ham is Joyce Farms. Joyce Farms is based out of Winston-Salem, and they have chickens, hogs, duck, pheasant, all that different products that they raise or that they source from North Carolina and some really close surrounding states, small farm, heritage, natural welfare, all that kind of good stuff. But there's a in Smithfield, North Carolina, so south of Gardner, there's a master ham curer, so that they have several brands under his thing that they bring their hogs to him and he turns them into the hams, whether they're these super aged ones or some fresher ones. Goodnight Brothers is another one of their products, but that's the cool thing about the Joyce. So you might find Joyce chicken and some other local places. Accidental Baker in Hillsboro. Goat Lady Dairy. They're also, I think, Selma, North Carolina. Really a lot of good. I mean, they're mainly known for their fresh chev cheeses, which is a fresh goat meat cheese. That's the one that's soft. It's a little bit crumbly and creamy. Got a nice little, goat milk cheese nose to it. But they also have some aged cheese that they do as well. And to me, when I first got to North Carolina in 2006, in Greensboro, Goat Lady Dairy is one of the first local cheeses that I was introduced to that I could get. I could also get commercially to where they made big enough batches that I could buy them through my vendors, and then some of these other ones have come available through a vendor, especially as more and more places are trying to use them. And then a lot of these other cheeses, it's all Prodigal Farm. This I will show, and again, I couldn't even tell you if this XO, which means I think extra age Gouda, 26 month. This is just awesome stuff. This is not local, but it's just great stuff. It's product of Holland. But all the other cheeses besides that Goat Lady was Prodigal Farm. There's Chevrolet, is the blue cheese, the Spring Fever, and then this Millefeuille with the fig. And they have a couple other. I mean, they have a handful, a lot of award-winning cheeses. Goat Lady Dairy also award-winning. Throughout the country through a cheese society contests and things I don't know that much detail about, but and then I know Prodigal Farm, and then there's so many other ones. I know them when I see them. I just can't. I'm kind of brain blocking on Chapel Hill Creamery. I don't have that with me here today, but I do buy it often. They have a nice small. It's called Blue Moon. It's kind of cross between a Brie and a Cabernet, not Cabernet, let's just say Brie. I'm trying to think of the other one. It starts with a Camembert. There you go. I couldn't get it out, but yeah. So that's good stuff too. I think that's, yeah, I think that's about just about everything.
So if you will, switch to gallery view and hold up your board. And we are going to get a picture of you guys holding up your board. Okay, is everybody ready that has a board in front of them? Awesome. Thank you so much. I hope everyone had a great time tonight. I know I certainly learned a lot, and I'm sitting here looking across the room. I'm looking across the room at all of these cheeses and meats, and I'm hoping I get a little sample before we leave this room. Thanks again. Have a great evening. Go Heels, and we hope to see you together in person Sunday soon. Good night.